Okay, another fact check that I want to do. This is a really good opportunity to talk about this new talking point that is spreading, that only 9,000 Americans died of coronavirus. Now, you might hear that and say, oh, 9,000? 180 something thousand is the official death toll. Where on earth are you getting that? I'm going to tell you exactly where it comes from. And in fact, Donald Trump tried amplifying this talking point and retweeted a tweet that Twitter removed because it was spreading disinformation about coronavirus 19. So the original tweet was posted by a user with the username Little Mel, has been removed, and it now says this tweet is no longer available because it violated the Twitter rules. The story that tweet, which Donald Trump retweeted, told is one that alleges that new CDC data proves coronavirus was only the cause of death in 6% of the deaths so far, and that for all other coronavirus deaths, the real cause of death was 1, 2, or even 3 other conditions or causes. And what a lot of right-wingers are seizing on is that 6% number and saying, look, only 9,000 people really died of coronavirus. Now, that tweet was removed. Donald Trump also retweeted a post by one of his attorneys, Jenna Ellis, with a link to a story on a far-right conspiracy website, also based on the same coronavirus 19 conspiracy. That retweet hasn't been removed. And it says, if you're looking very dramatically, shock report, the CDC quietly updated COVID numbers. Only 9,200 died from coronavirus alone. The rest had different other serious illnesses. Now, I'm going to explain the talking point to you, but I actually wonder, do you think Trump believes only 9,000 people really died of coronavirus? Or do you think he's retweeting this stuff because he knows that there's a political advantage to doing it? I actually am unsure, but it boggles the mind how anyone could look at the data and say, oh, these people didn't really die of coronavirus. So let me give you an analogy to what they are saying. This would be like saying most gunshot victims don't die of a gunshot. They die of bleeding out. And so gunshots aren't really that deadly. But listen, if you're going to bleed out, that's a completely different story. That's essentially the argument that they are making. What they are trying to say is the 94% of coronavirus deaths that had an additional comorbidity weren't really coronavirus deaths. And of course, this misses the point that the way lots of people end up dying from communicable disease is because they have an underlying compromised immune system, or they have another condition that makes the virus or whatever disease we're talking about more dangerous or deadly. And the idea they're trying to spread is if you're healthy, you don't really have anything to worry about. And therefore, we don't need to be doing all the social distancing. We don't need masks. We don't need shutdowns. We don't need any of this stuff. Now, there's a couple different reactions to this. First of all, 40% of Americans are obese, and obesity is an aggravating factor for coronavirus. So if you want to make the case that if you have no comorbidity, you are really, really safe, 40% of Americans have a major comorbidity, which is obesity. So even if this was accurate in some way, in some fundamental sense, it doesn't seem like this gets a lot of people off the hook. That's number one. Number two, this is something that, if it were to become widely believed, would be very dangerous because it would simply encourage dangerous behavior, including from people who do have comorbidities. A lot of people don't even understand the concept of a comorbidity and risk factors and aggravating factors. So this would be the type of stuff that Twitter should be policing in general, but not that what you would expect to see posted by a president of the United States. But it is indeed being posted by the president of the United States. And Twitter is regularly having to actually deal with Donald Trump's tweets. Another retweet from Trump was recently removed for falsely claiming that there was a cure for coronavirus. Twitter moderators have also had to deal with Donald Trump's tweets that were glorifying violence. The reality is Donald Trump, if he were not president, likely would have been banned from Twitter a long time ago. And yet they continue to insist that Twitter's bias is actually anti-conservative more than it is anti-liberal. Very, very weird stuff.